Transitioning now to our
There's
guest
more,
segment.
apparently.
Brian is our special guest, or part of the panel. Now, excuse me, the panelist that will be handling this segment, though I will get us started. The topic, Nvidia is releasing this month in May.
This isn't fair.
The 4060 Ti 8GB VRAM. We're going to talk about these numbers. Now, these numbers are not on here because I, Joe, agree with everything on the screen.
No,
these numbers are here to goad discussion, to get to the true meaning of what do we think about these numbers.
Where's my 3090 Ti?
It was not on this benchmark test, but
that's right. This is fixed. Brian fixed this.
Well, Brian's going to talk about that. He is going to talk about that.
Good. No, I'm just messing with Brian.
I will say,
dude, I requested Brian to be on an episode with me.
Yeah,
and so I've got to mess with him.
Yeah. Now, understandable. I will at least get us jumped off here with why we're talking about this. Nvidia, they are releasing the 4060 cards. That's the 4060, the non-Ti, and then two versions of the Ti, the 8GB and the 16GB card. And the 8GB is going to release this May. The 16GB Ti and the non-Ti 4060 are going to be released in July. One may be the first half and the other may be the second half. And let's talk about pricing for a moment. The 4060 Ti with 8GB VRAM version is going to release for $399, and that is the same price that the 3060 Ti launched in 2020. So the 4060 Ti with 16GB VRAM, that's going to be $100 more for you gentlemen at $499. The 4060 non-Ti will release at $299, whereas the 3060 non-Ti released at $329. So we have some price differentiation there. The 4060 has a lower TGP, total graphics power, than the 3060 and 3060 Ti card when you compare the 40,000 line to that. I also found it very interesting that the memory bandwidth is different for these. The memory bandwidth in the 4060 cards is lower to the respective comparison of the 30,000 line. And with that, Brian?
I gotta talk what Brian does, so he don't get me. So, I'm an Nvidia guy, right? I got an MSI 3090 Ti. Okay, so 3090 obviously ain't on the charts, but I've already know where this is going. The 40 series Nvidia cards are a daggone joke. They're a joke all day long.
And you're not the only one that feels that way, I will say.
Yeah, no. They're a joke. They're my 3090 Ti will put up against the 4090 all day long. When you talk about the Radeon could, the newest series Radeon could probably blow the 4090 Ti away, or the 4090, sorry, Ti, or is there a 4090 Ti? I'm not really sure. The 4090, it can blow it away. It could probably blow my 3090 Ti away. AMD and Nvidia are in this major battle, but my 3090 Ti has done absolutely amazing. But okay, Brian, tell me how bad my shit is.
Before I give it to Brian, let me
look at this smile on his dang on face.
Let me ask.
Look at that smile on his face.
Let me ask Brian, before I hand it off to you, Brian, do you want me to talk about the significance of the May 24th launch date of the 4060 Ti 8GB?
Don't talk about the 4060 or the 4080.
Do you want me to talk about the
Don't talk about the
significance,
4070, 4080, or the 4090. Don't just leave it out. Just give it to him. Give it to him. He's fine. He's good.
Because okay, I'll just hand it off, Brian. You let me know when you want me to come back in with detail.
So
The spotlight is yours, sir.
So this is a pretty interesting quote unquote leak. The reason why it's interesting is because it follows a pattern that Nvidia has done for years. So these are not to be taken as official benchmarks. They are confirmed as running on press review drivers, which are not production release drivers. They are preview. You can run some benchmarks and get first impressions kind of reviews. So that's what these cards are. They are binned, handpicked by Nvidia to hand out to reviewers to run benchmarks and leak them out, so that way there's hype built around it. They've done it with every single line of cards since AMD came back into the game. I will say that these numbers are entirely inflated. The other thing that's fun to mention is the 7600 wasn't even review drivers. The 7600s that were tested, which is also an unreleased card, those are running off of the test benchmark. So these are like not even review sample drivers. These are tech sample drivers. So we're not talking about any kind of production drivers. We're not talking about, any kind of one-to-one, in a high performance motherboard versus a budget motherboard versus any kind of other situation. These are very preliminary numbers. I would hesitate. I would hesitate to say that the Radeon's going to cap out there. I think what you'll see is the Radeon numbers will come up a little bit, and the 40.
Oh, did we lose him?
The
Oh,
the 4060 Ti is being released, which is already a second iteration of a card. And then they're releasing the third iteration of the same card in the form of the Ti 16 gig. And AMD is releasing the 7600.
Yeah.
One card. If you look at the rest of the lineup from the last couple of years, you've got the 6600, the 6600 XT, the 6650 XT. Kind of follows that same pattern, right? That I guarantee you the 7600 XT and the 7650 XT that end up releasing are going to directly target those corresponding Nvidia cards for both price point, spec, and performance.
No, AMD will beat Nvidia's price point. Is what you mean?
Price for performance will be a better deal with AMD. The thing is, so the true benefit to an AMD card is if you're running an entire AMD platform. If you're running any of the newer generation chips, you have the Infinity Fabric between, or I don't remember if it's the Infinity. I might be getting my terminology mixed up. The Infinity Cache. Thank you.
Yeah.
But basically, it acts as one shared cache pool between your memory and your graphics. So very low latency communication between the GPU and the CPU. You don't get that unless you're running a full AMD platform. So you get the folks that are, hardcore Intel people. I don't know why those people still exist, but they do.
Sorry, Brian.
So you get the Team Blue people, and the Team Blue people aren't going to get the performance boost from AMD by having the corresponding products. So they're going to go, well, I'm going to perform better on my platform by using NVIDIA. So typically that's what you'll see is the Intel people stick Team Green, and then the AMD people realize the benefit of using complete AMD platform.
It's not wrong. I mean, literally, when I was building my new machine, I strongly considered going AMD everything. I mean, if it wasn't for the price that I got for my 12th gen, 12900, I wouldn't have went for it. And again, it's the same thing with my Nvidia card. It all depends on when you buy and what generation and what time you buy. I bought whenever Nvidia was actually not that bad for the price of the chip that I got. I got a 3090 Ti. Like I said, Intel, 12900K. If it would, but like Brian's saying, if you buy the same gen version of the CPU, AMD, and Radeon, which is AMD, you could outbeat me all day long. It just what's available when it's available, and again, there are people that are AMD people, and there are Intel people or Nvidia people. I mean, I can't disagree or agree with them because what I've got works really, really, really well, but maybe 2 or 3 months later, maybe I'd have been an AMD a whole AMD system.
Nick Kumar, are you buying a 4060 Ti?
No, God,
It's great for budget gamers.
don't buy that. Buy
Entry
30
level. It's
Yeah,
good for
no,
entry
no,
level.
no. Buy 30 series all day long. Don't buy anything 40 series yet. If you look at any of your bigger YouTube guys too, like Nexus Gamer, Jay's 2 Cents, and like that, they all agree that the 40 series Nvidia cards are a joke. If you're gonna go with anything 40 series Nvidia, you might as well go AMD because the AMD is gonna blow the Nvidia stuff away. The 40 Nvidia had to come out with something because AMD was coming out with their new card and they had to have something. So they rushed and pushed this 40 series card out, which is a joke. I mean, anybody who's buying, if you have to have Nvidia right now, as of right now, buy a 30 series card. 3090 Ti is the best card you can buy for Nvidia, right? If you push 40 series, it's just not worth the money as much as they cost. I mean, especially when the 5 series is going to be coming out 6 months from now. Maybe it'll be better. We don't know for sure, but I mean, again, it's not worth the money to buy. And again, you look at the retail market. Go to Amazon right now and look at the people who are looking even for the 20 series cards versus the 4. Those 20 series, like the 2080 Ti's, the 3080 Ti's, 3090 Ti's, they're actually more expensive than what the 4090s are.
Brian, thoughts on this?
So, I mean, I completely agree. I think the assessment on, I feel like as much as AMD has been a market disruptor in both CPUs and GPUs, I think that Nvidia has gone to market confuser. Release a whole bunch of SKUs, get everybody talking about Nvidia, whether it's positive or negative.
They try to hype it up.
Right. And then it's going to drum up the people to go buy it anyway. So, but to Jay's point, you look at a card that is actually, when did I get that card? I got that card almost 2 years ago. My 5950, my 59 or 6950 XT Liquid Devil.
Was that the one in Micro Center that you went?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I
bought it on a whim.
Yep.
It's still one of the best graphics cards on the market.
You really wanted that 4090, and I said no.
And how many cards has Nvidia come out with since then that they say it was going to trounce all of the cards of the previous year combined? Yeah, some of them do outperform it a little bit on like the 8K gaming specs that they've started putting out because everybody's playing it, 8K, right?
Right? What?
So where that comes in, and this is an interesting fact, when you dual screen, if you're running two 4K displays, that's the equivalent graphically of running one 8K display. So where that becomes relevant is if you're pushing out two 4K signals to two 4K monitors because you're that kind of person that wants that Forza experience, you need to be able to put out 8K resolution. So I get that. There is a use case for it. However, that's a very small part of the demographic. Most people require two 1440p displays for your average gamer.
Right.
Or an ultra wide 1440p.
Right.
So, it's like, let's put out all these specs for future things and things that we're not doing yet and make it seem like our product is great. And it's like, okay, cool. If you want to slap your wiener down on the desk and go, hey, mine's bigger, that's fine. But it'll do everything that your average game needs to do. I would say if you're building a rig that you wanted to play Fortnite with or PUBG, or you wanted to build a computer for your kids, you know what? The 3060 or the 4060 Ti is a perfect card for you because it's a low price point and it's going to get the job done. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, your 13-year-old kid who's going to get their first self-built computer, they're going to get a 4090. No. So each card has their place, and I think entry-level builders have been neglected for a while, and this is going to be that entry-level builder card.
I mean, Brian's point. I mean, what was the 1660 Ti version that came out with Nvidia? That was your entry-level, Nvidia card that came out right before the 40 series. It was the same idea. It was your entry-level build. I mean, same idea with Nvidia. It's the same idea. That's what I was trying to get across. When you're building your own brand new machine, if you're going to be the one to actually build it, look at your price points. Look at what your CPUs are going to cost. Look at what your GPUs are going to cost. At that point, Nvidia and AMD are they're battling for that number one spot. That maybe one month that Nvidia, hey, look, they're actually better price point, better GPU. Next month, it might be Nvidia. It just so happened to be whenever I built my machine that Nvidia was the best at the point. Besides the 40 series. Now, when I built this or put my new GPU in, the 40 series was out, but and looking at the benchmarks and everything else, the AMD beat the 40, actually beat all the 40 series stuff. And like I said, that's why I said that the Nvidia pushed out their product so fast just to try to get something out in a response to the AMD stuff, that the AMD or the Nvidia 3090 Ti, my machine's 2% less than the 4090. Why would you pay an extra $1,000 for a GPU that only gets 2% more? Why? I mean, my machine will play any game, every game that I want it to at 200 plus frames per second all day long.
Flight Simulator.
Shut up, Kumar.
Well, I will say, Jay, I will say this. This is what Nvidia, and I call this master marketing. Brian, you may have more insight into
No,
this,
Brian's, this is where Brian and I actually completely agree on things. He's a big AMD guy. I'm an Nvidia Intel guy,
but I want to provide an answer, whether it's the best answer or not the best answer, but it's at least an answer to your question. And I say this objectively. When the 4000 cards were introduced, You had Cyberpunk 2077 show off, introducing path tracing into Cyberpunk. It looks awesome. It looks visually awesome.
But it was a mess.
Path tracing has attributes that the ray tracing that we are accustomed to in previous generations or generation, it's not the same as path tracing in the way that the light is measured and how it reflects is different. And Nvidia pushed, well, your 40,000 cards are going to be the best at this, and it was the 4090 that was the showcase for path tracing with Cyberpunk, and then saying, well, if you want awesome frame rates with path tracing, you need DLSS 3 or 3.0, and the 40,000 series cards, talking about the 4090, and in this case, for what they were introducing, that is what's going to give you, that is what is compatible with our DLSS 3. So the idea of you want the best ray tracing with path tracing, you want the best frame rate, you get our 40,000. Now, I haven't done tests on this myself, but I am not under the impression that you cannot use path tracing with a 30,000 card. I still think you can enable it and use it with a 30,000 card, but the marketing aspect is the 40,000s are going to work better, or the 4,000 series is going to work better than the 3,000 series, but we don't have those numbers in front of us, that data in front of us. But the answer to your query, if I'm a fanboy NVIDIA person and I hear NVIDIA talking about this, I go, whoa, I want the best. I just want it all. I want the path tracing. I want the high frame rate. Yeah, I'm gonna spend that extra buck if I have it. I get it from my parents. I get it from whoever. I'm going to spend it if I can. So that is why. But that doesn't mean it's the right or the best action to take. I also will add another tidbit that this is not a plug-and-play scenario where you just get the 4090 and it works awesome. Every game is different. Tuning with settings, GeForce experience, the drivers. I have tried the same game with different drivers. I've had different
and that's the same way with AMD and Nvidia too. Certain games work better, supposedly, per driver for Nvidia, and there are certain games who actually will give you better FPS and everything else with AMD. It depends. Again, that's why when I'm talking about, like, people who are building brand new machines, it's not an Nvidia is better than AMD. It's what can you get for the price point right now.
Yeah.
So I think I need to summarize. Console. Thank you very much.
You just call me a Brian. We got this. Brian and I, we'll hook you up.
We'll send him a
I know
4,000 series card.
Brian and I know
Next
we played together. Let's see, PlayStation. Him, AMD. Me. I don't know. Like I said, I've had plenty. I've had AMD systems before in the past. And I swore by them. I mean, I beat the crap out of them. They would last forever. But again, I've built NVIDIA systems same way. I beat the crap out of them. Just when I built my machine, it was just NVIDIA was king at that point, and it ruled out. And Brian and I have had arguments while playing on a fire team together about NVIDIA and AMD.
Good memories.
It's never good. Yeah, good memories. A good memory, absolutely, but it's never going to end.
Is that an Astro headset you got on there?
So me?
Yeah.
Well, my headset?
Those are Astros, right?
Those are Astros, bro. Yeah.
All right.
These are stock. I didn't change anything about them. Again, if I'm gonna put more money into things, it's gonna be my machine, not my headsets. Now these are.
Yeah, those are the Astro A50s, right?
Well,
yeah, they're good machines. I mean, are good accessories. That's for dang sure. I love them. You cannot beat the surround sound 3D. If I'm playing a game like Apex or something like that, I can tell if somebody's above me, below me, right side, left side. I mean, they're good.
That's what I have too. I like
Before
it.
before we go on a tangent, any other thoughts before we close our special segment? Special
As long as
panelist
Brian's
segment.
not allowed to talk.
Yeah, console is obviously superior, and you know, problems doesn't cost as much. I mean, it costs as much as a card.
No, it doesn't cost as much until it breaks, and then you gotta buy a whole brand new one. See, the thing is,
Well,
is
you
if
can burn out cards. I mean, if you try overclocking.
no, if this breaks, I can find the replacement part and replace it. If an Xbox breaks, I gotta buy a whole Xbox, so they flash that crap. And, no, and don't get me wrong, I have
He went
bought
to
the
3 of
flashing
them.
gear. I
He
have
went
bought
to
the
3 of them.
flashing gear to try to reflash hard drives, whatever else. It don't work. Microsoft has absolutely got the edge on that stuff.
Of course.
I don't know about PlayStations. I've never tried. So I mean, but Xbox, if it breaks, it's done. This is higher entry level cost, but worth it in the long run.
So what I'll say is the leak performance benchmarks that came out, take them with a grain of salt. These are not going to be accurate representations of the actual release cards with release drivers, release firmware, and release hardware. We don't know whether these are reference cards versus third-party cards, but they were press release drivers. The 7600 was development drivers. Neither card has been released, so I would wait for the actual reviews to come out before actually making a decision based off of benchmarks. If you're going to pre-order something, go with your gut. Don't necessarily believe the pre-release benchmarks. That's what I'll.
Yeah, Brian's right. Don't. This chart is way too early. AMD might blow away Nvidia. Yet you don't know that. You gotta wait and actually see. Jay's 2 cents, Nexus Gamer, those guys that have the other YouTube channels too. They are really, really good at testing this equipment, like in real life, with specific games and everything else. They're gonna show you, and like Brian, this could be a specific game. This might not be a. This might be a game specifically that would benefit Nvidia. There are a lot of other games out there that would specifically benefit.
These are benchmark software, so
right. But we've seen in the past that manufacturers of press release drivers have tailored them to perform better.
Right.
Understood.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be specifically. I mean, there are going to be certain games and certain things out there that process better on different games. I mean, that boils down to even as your CPU, which is crazy to think about. But there are certain games that will actually give you more frames per second because they're more CPU demanding than
threaded
they are
optimization.
GPU. Right.
CPU supports generating frames,
and that depends on like what kind of system you're running. If you're running a PC, like I am, I've got different things, overclocked. And mine's a 12900K, right? And I've got, I'm supposed to have 8 E cores, 8 P cores. Well, I've changed mine over through BIOS, and I have actually, 16 P cores now, where it based on performance. And then when I boot a specific game, it is actually focusing those P cores on the game and not just everything else going on in the background. It depends all on what they've done. These numbers could mean what Brian's point is. These aren't real. You don't know what they're actually going to be until you get somebody, a third party like us or whoever else, to actually show you what. Hey, this game's getting this with this card. You have a what, Joe? What do you have? You have 30.
Well, I think these aren't meaningful because, as Brian said, press release drivers. This is inflated. The press release drivers are made to maybe.
That would be a good. That would be a
4060.
good video later on
Yeah,
for us.
and-
What are you running, Joe? You're running a 3080,
Yeah, 3080 Ti.
and Brian, what are you running? AMD something.
Yeah, he's AMD.
6950 XT power color liquid devil.
Okay, and I'm running a 3090 Ti. This would be one of those opportunities for us to say, okay, well, let's run the exact same game underneath the exact same performance module in the game, right? Say high, low, whatever else, and actually get our frames per second and everything else, and be able to put that in our our own version of our own chart and show, hey, look, this is what's actually happening.
Well, we have the channel. It's our channel. We can do what we want.
I'll play it on console.
And then we will have Nick's console numbers, and Kumar, we'll just throw in your flight simulator numbers.
Yes,
We'll
just
put it as
to
an
keep
outlier.
Well,
No. A console stuff, because there are a lot of people. I mean, there's probably more people on console than there is a PC. Really, there really are. I mean, because consoles are just so much more easily obtainable.
and you don't have to tweak and modify them.
Right. Exactly.
Problem.
You've got people like me who I've built my own machine and I've tweaked them and I've overclocked things and I've done different things like that. Now, again, and that would be another thing, Joe, that we would have to talk about whenever we, if we would ever do a video like that. Like, okay, your 3080 is getting this, my 3090 Ti is that. Brian's, AMD is getting this, but mine's actually overclocked. So you'd have to figure out. Well, and Kumar's got a 3090 Ti or 3090, does he not?
I got 3080.
3080.
Well, before we get tangential, let's wrap up our segment here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think Brian concluded it best. We will leave it at that. And that is our segment on the 4060 and 4060 Ti's. Transitioning to our conclusion of the show, episode